Om Sai Ram. Let us understand chapter number 7, the narration of various stories. Before that, let us do the Namasmaran, followed by chapter number 7, and then let us conclude chapter number 7 by the Aarti. Shri Satchidanand Satguru Sainath Maharaj Ki Jai. ओम श्री साई नाथाय नमः। 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 Om Sai Ram. Chapter number 7, the narration of various stories. I bow down to Shri Ganesh, I bow down to Shri Saraswati, I bow down to the Guru, I bow down to the family deity, I bow down to Shri Sita Ramachandra, and I bow down to Shri Satguru Sai Nath. Let us pick up the threads of the previous chapter. Let us recollect how much Baba loved the renovation of temples, how he would strive to be benevolent to others, how he looked after and protected his devotees, how he would wear himself, how he would suffer for the sake of the devotees. He would take Samadhi doing Kanda Yoga practices. He would do Dhoti Pothi and other practices. Some he would separate his heads, legs, arms from the body and bring them back together as before. If you call him a Hindu, he looked like a Muslim. If a Muslim, he had all the auspicious signs of a Hindu. Such was the extraordinary avatar which wise person can describe him. Whether he was a Hindu or a Muslim, nobody was able to make the least conjecture. His behavior was always the same towards both the communities. Ram Navami was a Hindu festival. He would celebrate this and his own by having the cradle tied up in the Sabha Mandap and have the kathas and kirtans recited in the square. In his presence, the cradle would be tied and he would have the kirtan performed. And at the same time, he would permit the Muslims to hold a sandal procession. As many Muslims as wished to come would join the sandal procession with pomp and glory. He got both the functions celebrated equally and happily. When the Ram Navami dawned, he was fond of arranging wrestling bouts and give away prizes such as horses, anklets, and gears very enthusiastically. When the Gokulashtami festival would come, he would have the Gopal Kala done, and similarly, when Eid day, the Muslims were not restricted from namaz. Once, when Muharram festival came, some Muslims came to the masjid and asked for permission to have the Taziyah procession in the village. According to his orders, the Taziyah was built. It was kept for 4 days and on the fifth day was asked to be removed. He had no feeling of either pleasure or displeasure. If he was a Muslim, he pierced his ears. If he was a Hindu, he believed in circumcision. Thus, neither a Hindu nor a Muslim. Such was the sanctified avatar of Sai. If he was a Hindu, he lived in the masjid. If he was a Muslim, there was a sacred fire burning day and night in the masjid. In the masjid itself was the grinding stone on which the grinding was done. The masjid bells would chime and the conch would be blown, and in the masjid, the offerings would be the sacred fire were to be made. What kind of a Muslim was he? In the masjid, there were recitations of bhajans always, free distribution of food, offerings to God, worship of feet, and puja. What kind of a Muslim was he? If he was called a Muslim, then the elite of Brahmins would come and do his puja. The Agnihotris would prostrate to him, having surrendered their pride of purity to him. This way, the people were astonished at heart. Whatever they would experience, they would behave accordingly and keep silent during the time of darshan. So long as a person is surrendered to God, can he be called a Hindu or a Muslim? He may be of a low birth, low caste, or without caste, outside the pale of society. Caste is not the criteria or importance to him. One who does not have a body consciousness, whether he is a Hindu or a Muslim, for him all castes and creeds are equal. The discrimination born of caste is not applicable to him. He took meat with the fakirs, or on his own, I ate fish, would not be disgusted even if a dog puts his mouth into his food. A farmer stores grains obtained in the current year by building storehouses so that in case of shortage in the next year it would be useful. Similarly, a gunny bag full of wheat was stored and also a grinding stone to grind the grains in the masjid. There were also scuttles to winnow the grain. Nothing fell short of a householder's life. In the pandal, they were decorative, beautiful, and special Tulsi Vrindavan. Nearby, there is a wood chariot, beautifully carved because of many good deeds of the previous birth that I could come in contact with all these good things. I will hold it in my heart and I will feel lack of nothing till the end. Thanks to the good fortune of the previous birth, I have been able to attain his feet, get peace of mind and contentment in household matters. Afterwards, however much I may prosper, the happiness will never be regained which I experienced and was blessed to receive in the company of great Shri Sai. Sai is the stone of ultimate happiness. How can I describe his uniqueness? Whoever surrendered to him was permanently settled for good. The sannyasis who have performed penance, holding the danda, and who used to use deer skin for clothing and for setting. Those who have visited Haridwar and have been to Tirthas, those who have practiced heart penance, those who have renounced the world, and those who are non attached came here. He would talk, walk, and laugh a lot. He would always recite Allah Malik. He did not like arguments or discussions, and he always carried a satka aesthetic, non-attached by nature, of moderate passions, with malice towards none. His speech flowed with Vedantic philosophy, well versed in Vedanta. Till the end, none could fathom who Baba was. The rich and the poor were treated equally by him. The son of a wealthy person or of a penniless beggar would be measured by the same yardstick. He would know the good and bad deeds of anyone and the innermost desires. He would tell them their confidential secrets by some hint would be given, astounded the devotees. He was the epitome of knowledge and wisdom, which he kept under cover. It was a burden for him to be honored. Such were the characteristics of Sri Sai. Though he had a mortal body, his deeds were singularly uncommon, like that of God. He was definitely the deity of Shirdi. All the people believed this faithfully. How many were the miracles of Baba? How much can I, an insignificant person, describe? Baba had the renovation of numerous deities and temples undertaken in Shirdi itself by the hands of Tatya Patil. He improved the temples of Shani, Ganapati, Shankar, Parvati, the village deity, and Maruti. The money that was collected from the people as dakshina was spent in charity partly, and some were simply given away. To some, he would daily give rupees 30, to some rupees 10, rupees 15 or 50. Likewise, he would be happy and distribute according to his sweet will. This money belonged to the people of all religions, and those who accepted it were aware of this. Baba had the wish that it should be spent in a good way. May it be so. Many people prospered only because of his darshan. Many wicked people turned good. Many were cured of diseases like leprosy, and a lot of people achieved their welfare without putting collyrium or ointments or herbal juices. Many blind regained their sight. Those who are lame started walking just by surrendering at his feet. Such was his infinite greatness that nobody was able to gauge the extent. From all four quarters, countless people started streaming in. He sat at the same place near the Dhuni. He eased himself there. He would remain at the same spot, sometimes with others, without a bath. He was always intent in meditation. On his head, he would have a special white headgear and tie a clean dhoti to his waist. Put a shirt or a pehran. Such was his dress in the beginning. Initially, he would practice Ayurvedic medicine in the village. He would examine patients and give medicine. He had a healing touch and became a famous Hakim. Once upon a time, a devotee's eyes were swollen and were like red balls. Both the pupils were blood red, and no Ved was available in Shirdi. The simple and pious devotee showed his eyes to Baba. Immediately, Baba got the marking nut, Biba, pounded and made it into balls. Under the circumstance, many would have put surma, powdered pearl. Some may have put wet pieces of cloth dipped in cow's milk. Others would have kept cool camphor cakes on the eyes, and some would have used collyrium. But Baba's remedy was absolutely different. He picked up each biba ball with his own hands and pressed as much as possible, one in each eye, and then tied a cloth around them. Then the next day, the cloth tied around the eyes was removed and the eyes were washed with cold water poured in a steady stream. All the swelling disappeared and the pupils were clear. Although a delicate organ like the eye was treated by Biba, there was no burning and the disease was cured. Such were the countless experiences. He knew the yogic practices of Dhoti Pothi. Without anybody's knowledge, he would go to a secluded place and while bathing, vomit out his intestines, wash them, and put them to dry out. At the same distance as the masjid to the well, there were further a banyan tree, a certain spot, and beyond it another well where he would go every third day, right at noon in the blazing sun. Having made sure that there is no one around, he would take out water from the well with his own hands and wash his face and perform his ablutions. On such an occasion, while he was having his bath, he took out his intestines and quickly started washing them on the spot. When a goat is slain, his intestines are turned inside out. After being thoroughly washed, they were cleaned and folded. Similarly, he removed his own intestines, washed them in and out, spread them on the rose apple tree. People were extremely amazed. Amongst those who have witnessed this feat with their own eyes, some are still living in Shirdi. They say that he was a unique saint. Sometimes he would practice Khanda Yoga and separate his arms and legs. This way, they would be scattered here and there in the masjid. In this way, the body would be broken into bits and pieces. The whole sight would be very gruesome. When some people ran to see this, they find Baba intact. Once, having seen such an incident, the onlooker was terribly frightened and thought some wicked person had killed Baba and committed this outrage. In the masjid, there were the limbs could be seen in all four corners. It was midnight and no one was around. He was worried. To whom should he tell these incidents? On the contrary, he may be hanged. Thinking of this, he went and sat outside. It did not even occur to him, even in his dreams, that it was the yogic powers of Sai. And looking at the fragments of his body, the heart thumped with fright. Someone should be informed. The thought occurred to him over and over again, but being the first person to give information, he might be held the culprit. Therefore, he did not tell anybody. Many ideas came to him. Therefore, in the early morning, he went to look again and he was surprised at what he saw. There was not a sign of the earlier happening. Baba was sitting hale and hearty at his usual place. The onlooker was astounded and wondered if he had had a dream. These are the practices of yoga of Dhoti Poti were practiced by Baba since childhood. Nobody could understand the depth of it and the fathom of his yogic state. He never took a penny from anybody. By his own virtue, he became famous. The weak and the poor were bestowed with good health by him, and he became famous Hakim in that province. He was the Hakim for the sake of others. He was totally disinterested for his own gain. To achieve the good of others, he endured a lot of hardship and pain. To explain this, I will tell an unusual story for the sake of the listeners, which will make known Baba's compassion and his universal all-pervading powers. In the year 1910, on Dhanteras Day, Baba was casually sitting near the Dhuni and burning firewood. The Dhuni was hot and brightly lit. He inserted his own arm into the fire and peacefully sat there. The arm came out scorched. His servitor Madhav saw it by chance, and Madhavrao Deshpande was also nearby. He ran towards him immediately. He went and sat cross-legged behind Baba, put his arm lightly around his waist, and pulled him back. He asked, "See what has happened." "Oh Deva, what have you done?" At these words, Baba became aware of the circumstance. A child suddenly slipped into the furnace from the arms, being astride the waist of a mother. Hearing her husband's call and being afraid, the blacksmith's wife took the child into her arms and started blowing the bellows of the furnace. While blowing, she lost her concentration and forgot the child was in her arms. The child was extremely restless and she slipped. Shama no sooner had she dropped that I picked her up. While I tried to take out the girl, that this incident happened. Let my damned hand be scourged. The child's life is saved from the pain and suffering due to the arm. What a remedy! And by whom should it be done? Madhavrao decided to write a letter to Chandolkar. He wrote the letter in detail. Chandolkar arrived in Shirdi immediately, bringing along with him the famous Dr. Parmanand to ward off the burning sensation. Dr. Parmanand brought with him a number of medicines which would be useful and came to the feet of Sai to serve him with Nana. After having bowed down to Baba, he asked him about his well being and told him the reason for his coming and requested him to show his arm. But since the time the arm was burned, Bagoji Shinde used to apply ghee, place a leaf upon it, and bandaged it every day. To remove the bandage, to show the arm to Dr. Parmanand to start taking medicine to heal Baba. With this good intention, Nana implored a great deal, and even Parmanand tried to remove the bandages and see the arm. Not today, tomorrow again, the same thing. Thus, he never allowed his arm to be seen, saying that his doctor was Allah. He was not least disturbed about it. Whatever medicines Parmanand had brought were never even opened in Shirdi, but it was his good fortune to have Sai's darshan, and therefore perhaps this incident happened. It was always Bagoji who served him. It was only Bagoji who would massage his hand. Then, after some time, the hand healed, and everybody were happy. In this way, although the hand was completely cured, one does not know what was in Baba's mind in allowing Bagoji every day early morning in the day to carry out the ceremony of tying the bandages. Although there was no pain, regularly and for no reason, with the help of ghee, massage was done and the hand was cared for till death. These services were for the sake of Bagoji. Siddha Sai never needed them. He made Bagoji render regular service with love as a devotee should. Because of the sins of his previous birth, Bagoji was suffering from leprosy, but it was his good fortune that he came in touch with Sai. Whenever Baba started on his round to Lendi, Bagoji held the umbrella over Baba's head. Though his body was covered with black leprosy sores, he was the foremost in his service. Whenever early in the morning Baba was seated restfully against the pillar near the Dhuni, it was his good fortune to be there and to serve him. He would remove the bandages, massage the respective muscles, apply ghee to those parts, and thus be fortunate to serve him. Bagoji Shinde was a great sinner in his past life. His whole body was bleeding with sores. He was greatly affected by this deadly disease. But he was a matchless devotee of Baba. His fingers had become stumps because of leprosy, and his whole body emitted a nauseating smell. Thus, the one with such a great misfortune derived fourfold happiness from his services. Many such great miracles of Baba can be described to the listeners. Once, when a plague came to the village, listen to this miracle that happened. Dada Sahib Karpade's young son was staying with his mother and enjoying the pleasure of Baba's company. As it is, the boy was very young and he got very high fever. The mother's heart grew anxious and became agitated. Her home was in Amravati. Therefore, she thought of going there. In the evening, at the proper time, she came to take Baba's permission. While doing his evening rounds, Baba came near the Vada. There, the woman bestowed down at his feet and told him what had happened. As it is, women are timid by nature, and besides, the son trembling did not stop. Also, there was a scare of plague. Therefore, she told him what had happened. Baba lovingly assured her with these words: know that the skies are overcast, the rain will come and the harvest will ripen, the clouds will clear up. Why are you afraid? Saying this, he lifted his kafni up to the waist and showed everybody the full developed pupos. In four places, there were four pupos of the size of a hen's egg. He said, see, I have to bear this because of all your difficulties. People were amazed to witness this divine and unique ordeal. How the saints suffer for the sake of devotees. Their heart is softer than wax, just like butter appears outwardly. They have selfless love for the devotees as if they were his kith and kin. Once it so happened that Nana Sahib Chandolkar left Nandurbar to go to Pandharpur. Nana was very lucky. His wholehearted devotion to Sai had borne fruit. He had the earthly paradise as he had got the Mamlatdari of that place. When he received the orders of Nandarbar, he had to leave immediately. Hurriedly, he made all arrangements, deciding in his heart the darshan. Along with his wife and family circle, he thought of going to Shirdi as Shirdi was his Pandharpur and he wanted to pay his respects to Baba. He did not send a letter to anybody, nor did he send any message. He gathered together all his belongings and got into the carriage hurriedly. In this way, Nana started, and nobody in Shirdi knew about it. But Sai knew everything, as Sai was all pervading. Nana started immediately. He must appear at the outskirts of Nimongaon. Now listen carefully to this miracle that happened at Shirdi. In truth, at that time, Baba was in the masjid with Mahalsapati, Appa Shinde, and Kashiram. The devotees were seated chatting. At that moment, Baba said casually, let four of us sing a bhajan. The doors of Pandharpur have opened. We can sing joyously. Sai had knowledge of the past, present, and future. He had already learned the news. Nana was near the stream at the outskirts when Baba was singing the bhajan zealously. Bhajan, I am going to Pandharpur. Going. There I will stay. There I will stay. That is the abode of my master. Baba himself sang the bhajan, and the devotees were sitting around, followed him. They were engrossed in their love for Pandharpur. Just then, Nana had arrived. He bowed down at his feet with his wife and said that the Maharaj should go with them to Pandharpur and settle there undisturbed and without any worry. This invitation was not necessary. Already Baba was in a joyous mood, and people told him that he was ready to go to Pandharpur as the bhajan's words indicated. Nana was extremely surprised and seeing this Leela was amazed. He put his head at his feet and was deeply and emotionally moved. Taking his blessings, Udi and Prasad and bowing again, Chandolkar set out for Pandharpur after getting his permission to go. If such stories are narrated, this book will extend beyond limits. Therefore, we shall curtail the subject of the warding off of other suffering. Let us end this chapter now because there is no end to Baba's good deeds. In the next chapter, I will relate some other stories for my own well being. I have been unable to eradicate this ego of mine, though I am trying to do so. Who am I? I cannot understand. Let Sai tell his own stories. He will tell of the importance of human life and will tell why he believed in being a mendicant of Baizabai's devotion and what was his state of mind during the meals. Also, how Baba would sleep in the masjid together with Malsapati and Tatya Ganapati Kote. Listen to that. Pant Hemad surrenders to Sai and calls himself an insignificant devotee, as humble as the slippers on his feet. He obeys Sai's orders and has completed the narration up to this point. May there be well being. This is the end of the seventh chapter, the narration of various stories of Shri Sai Samartha Satcharithra, written by the devotee Hemat Pant, impelled by saints and virtuous people. This is offered to Shri Sadguru Sainath. May there be auspiciousness. Now, let us conclude chapter number 7 with the Aarti. श्री सच्चिदानंद सद्गुरु साईनाथ महाराज की जय। शिर्डी माझे पंढरपूर साई बाबा रमावर, बाबा रमावर, साई बाबा रमावर, शुद्ध भक्ती चंद्र बागा भाव पुंडलिक जागा, पुंडलिक जागा, भाव पुंडलिक जागा, याओ याओ अवकेचन करा बाबा श्रीवंदन, साई श्रीवंदन करा बाबा श्रीवंदन, तनुपनी बाबा साई ताव पाव माझे आई, पाव माझे आई, ताव पाव माझे आई, अनेलो तांघन वने कचरन तोयाति पाइन रूप तुझे, प्रेमीन रंगीन अनंत पूजिम पवेव माटिन बने नमा, तवेव माता पिता त्वमेव, त्वमेव बंधु सदा त्वमेव, त्वमेव विद्या दैरंगमेव, त्वमेव सर्वं मम देव देव, पायेनु माझ्या प्रसन्नियर्म हृदयात नावा पतन स्वभाव, नरोमि अत्यंत सकलंतरस्मै नारायणाय समर्पयामि, अच्युतं केशवं राम नाम नारायणं कृष्ण दामोदरं वासुदेवं हरे, माधवं गोपिका वल्लभं जानकी नायकं रामचन्द्रं हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे। श्री गुरुदेव दत्त सच्चिदानंद सद्गुरु साईनाथ महाराज की जय। Om Sai Ram. I urge all the listeners to read one chapter of the Sai Satcharithra daily and soak in Baba bliss. Baba bless you. Om Sai Ram.